3 weeks from now, a 5-year-old boy would be torn screaming from his mother's arms by hired men while his new father lay bleeding on frozen wood, helpless to stop them. But tonight, that same boy was not breathing. His lips had turned the color of twilight sky, blue edging toward purple, the color of drowning, and his mother was crawling through snow toward a stranger's door, pounding with frozen fists, begging one last time. "Please, my boy is not breathing. I got nowhere else to go." Then the door swung open. This is the story of how a desperate woman and a broken man became a family worth fighting for. Montana, December 1882. The snow fell thick and silent, blanketing the world in white death. Ben Bennett stopped breathing in his mother's arms. Emma felt it the moment life left her son. The weight changed. The warmth fled. His small body went slack, heavy, as wet clay mouth open, but pulling no air. His lips, chapped and cracked from 4 months on the road, turned the color of twilight sky, blue edging toward purple, the color of drowning. She shook him. Nothing. Shook him harder. His head lolled against her shoulder like a broken doll. Grace screamed. Not words, just sound. Pure animal terror from a 12-year-old girl who had seen too much death already. Rose grabbed their mother's coat with small fists, crying words Emma could not hear over the roaring in her own head. The roaring that said, "This is how it ends." The roaring that said, "You walked 4 months, and this is how it ends." The roaring that said, "You survived Thomas, and this is how it ends." 4 ranches today, 4 doors. 4 times Emma had climbed those porch steps with her dying children, with her frozen hands, with her last shred of dignity. 4 times she had begged, "Please, my children are starving. My son is sick. Please, we need warmth. We need food. We need mercy." 4 doors had closed. 4 times she had walked back into the killing cold with nothing but the weight of her children and the certainty that the next ranch would be different. Had to be different. Would be different. Now they stood 50 feet from a stranger's porch, and her son was dying in the snow, and Emma Bennett did the only thing left to do. She crawled. Her knees hit frozen earth. Her hands, numb past feeling, could not sense the rough wood splinters of the porch steps. She dragged herself forward, crawled like an animal, crawled like the desperate, crawled like a mother who had nothing left but this. Behind her, Grace held Rose back, both girls crying, both knowing, both too young to know but knowing anyway because they had learned in the hardest school there is. Ben lay in Emma's arms, not moving, not breathing, turning that terrible blue in the December twilight. Emma's fist hit wood. The door stayed shut. She hit it again, harder. The impact sent pain shooting up her frozen arm, but she could not feel it, could not feel anything except the weight of her son going colder. "Please." The word came out broken. "Please, God, somebody." The door did not move. Emma pounded again, and again, and again, until her knuckles split, until blood ran down her wrist, until the last of her strength poured out onto a stranger's door in the middle of nowhere, Montana. "Please, my boy is not breathing. I got nowhere else to go. Every ranch from here to Laramie done turned us away." She thrust Ben toward the door, as if the wood itself could save him, as if the house itself had mercy even if the man inside did not. "Save him. Please, I will give you anything. I will do anything. Just save my boy." The door stayed shut. Emma's heart cracked. Not again. Not another closed door. Not with Ben dying in her arms. Then the door swung open. A man filled the frame, tall, broad across the shoulders, eyes the color of winter sky, empty as the land around them. He looked down at Emma kneeling there, looked at Ben blue and still, looked at the 2 girls huddled behind crying in the cold. For one terrible moment Emma thought he would close the door, thought she would watch another door close on her dying son, thought this was how the story ended after all. Then the man reached down and took Ben from her arms. "Inside, now, all of you." He turned and walked into the house without looking back. Emma tried to stand. Her legs would not work. 4 months of walking, and they chose this moment to betray her. Grace grabbed one arm. Rose grabbed the other. Together they dragged their mother through the door into warmth and light and hope. If you want to know whether Ben survives and what happens when this broken family meets this broken man, stay with me, because what happens next will change all of them forever. The warmth hit Emma like a wall. After hours in the killing cold, the heat was almost painful. It rushed into her lungs, into her frozen limbs, waking nerves that had gone mercifully numb. She gasped, doubled over, her body shaking so hard her teeth clattered. But she could not think about that, could not think about the pain or the cold or the 4 months that had led to this moment, could only think about Ben. The man was already at the kitchen stove. He had ripped open his own shirt and pressed Ben against his bare chest, wrapping his coat around both of them like a cocoon. Body heat, he said. It was not explanation. It was command, statement of fact. Only thing that will warm him fast enough. Emma crawled toward them across the floor. Her hands left wet tracks on the wood, blood and melted snow. Is he breathing? Her voice came out wrong, hollow. The voice of someone who had already lost everything and was preparing to lose more. Hush! The man did not look up. He pressed his ear to Ben's chest. His jaw tightened. Something flickered across his face. Something that might have been memory, or might have been pain, or might have been both. He adjusted Ben's head, tilted it back slightly, cleared the airway with one rough finger, then he covered Ben's mouth and nose with his own mouth and breathed. Once, twice, 3 times. Steady, deliberate. The breath of life from stranger to child. Ben coughed. The sound was small, wet, weak, but it was the most beautiful sound Emma had ever heard in her 32 years on this earth. More beautiful than wedding bells, more beautiful than first words, more beautiful than anything because it meant her son was alive. Ben coughed again, then gasped. A thin, reedy pull of air. Then he started crying, weak and thin and barely audible, but crying, living, breathing. "Mama," his voice was just a whisper. "Mama, I'm cold." Emma sobbed. She could not help it. 4 months of holding everything together, 4 months of being strong for her children, 4 months of refusing to break because if she broke, they all broke. And now she was falling apart on a stranger's kitchen floor, crying like she had not cried since the night she buried Thomas and felt nothing but relief. "I know, baby," she managed. "I know you are cold, but you are going to be warm now. This man is going to make you warm." The rancher looked at her. Something moved in those winter eyes, something that might have been recognition, or might have been grief, or might have been the ghost of something dead and buried. "Boy needs to stay against skin for a spell," he said. His voice was rough, unused to speaking. "Got other children needing tending." Emma turned. Grace and Rose huddled by the door, snow melting off their threadbare coats, faces white with fear and exhaustion and the terrible knowledge that they had come within minutes of losing their brother. "Girls," Emma held out her arms. "Come here." They ran to her. Rose buried her face in Emma's neck. Grace wrapped her arms around both of them but kept her eyes on the stranger, watching, waiting, ready. "That one's got sense," the man said. He nodded at Grace. "Kept watching me like I might turn mean any second." Grace's chin lifted. "Men do turn mean. Seen it plenty." "Grace," Emma's voice held warning, but the man did not flinch. "Reckon you have, miss. Reckon you got good reason for watching." He met Grace's eyes directly. No condescension, no false comfort, just acknowledgement of hard truth. "I ain't going to hurt your mama or your kin. Got my word on that." Grace said nothing for a long moment. Then, "Words are cheap, mister." "They are," the man agreed. His voice was steady. "So watch me instead. See what I do. Judge me by that." Grace did not look away, did not relax, but something in her posture shifted. Not trust, not yet, but willingness to wait, to see. Emma studied the man holding her son. His hands were rough and calloused from work, but gentle with Ben. His face was weathered, lines around his eyes and mouth that spoke of years in harsh sun and harsher wind. He might have been handsome once, before whatever had hollowed him out. "I am Emma Bennett," she said. "These are my girls, Grace and Rose. You are holding my Ben. Nathan Hayes, this here is my ranch." The name meant nothing to Emma, but she filed it away. Nathan Hayes, the man who opened his door, the man who saved her son when 4 others had turned them away. "Mr. Hayes, I am beholden to you for what you done. We will not trouble you long, soon as Ben is strong enough to travel." "Ma'am," Nathan cut her off, not unkind but firm. "Your boy just came back from near dead. Your girls are shaking like leaves in a storm. You can hardly stand. Ain't nobody traveling nowhere tonight?" "I cannot ask you to let us stay." "You ain't asking. I am telling." He looked down at Ben, whose eyes had closed again, breathing steady now against Nathan's chest. "There is a room off the kitchen. Got a good stove, couple of beds. You and your young ones can sleep there tonight. Tomorrow we will figure the rest." Emma's throat tightened. "We got no money. Nothing to pay you with." "Did I ask for payment?" "No, but I still cannot accept without offering something." "Then do not offer what ain't been requested." Nathan's voice softened just slightly, just enough. "You came to my door with dying children, and I let you in. That is the end of it for tonight. Rest of it can wait till morning." Rose tugged on Emma's sleeve. Her small face was pale, but her eyes were bright, alive. "Mama, I like him. He saved Ben." "Hush, Rose." Grace pulled her sister closer. "We do not know him yet." "I know he saved Ben," Rose insisted. "That is enough for tonight." Nathan made a sound that might have been a laugh if it had not been so rusty, so unused. Smart girl. He stood Ben still cradled against his chest. The coat fell away and Emma saw the scars. Old scars, the kind that come from years of hard work or hard living or both. "Come on," Nathan said. "Let's get you all settled before the cold seeps back in." He led them through the house. Emma noticed things even through her exhaustion. No pictures on the walls, no decorations, furniture covered in dust. A door at the end of the hallway closed tight with a woman's shawl hanging on the hook beside it. Blue and faded. Forgotten but not discarded. A house that had stopped living while the man inside kept breathing. The room off the kitchen was small but clean. 2 beds, a wood stove already burning low but steady, a window facing east where dawn would come. There were quilts in a chest in the corner, extra blankets, the kind of supplies that spoke of preparation for guests who never came. "There is wood by the stove," Nathan said. "Keep it fed through the night. Should be warm enough once it gets going proper." He moved to lay Ben on one of the beds. Emma stepped forward. "I will take him. He needs his mama." Nathan hesitated. For just a moment something crossed his face, a shadow of old grief, old longing. Then he carefully transferred Ben into Emma's arms. Their hands touched in the exchange. His were warm despite the cold he had let in. Hers were still half frozen, still numb. "You need warming too," Nathan said. He stepped back quickly, as if the touch had burned. "I will bring coffee, something hot to eat." "Mr. Hayes, you do not have to do that." "I know I do not." He was already moving toward the door. "But I am going to anyway. Get your girls settled. I will be back directly." Then he was gone. The door closed softly behind him. Emma stood in the middle of the small room with her son in her arms and her daughters pressed against her sides and tried to understand what had just happened, how they had gone from dying in the snow to warm and safe in the space of minutes. "Mama," Grace's voice was low. "Careful. We should not trust him." "He saved your brother." "That does not mean nothing." Grace's jaw tightened in that way she had. That way that made her look 40 instead of 12. "Daddy used to do nice things too, before." She did not finish, did not have to. Emma knew what came after before, knew it intimately, in her bones, in the scars hidden under her dress, in the way she still flinched sometimes when men moved too fast. Emma knelt down, bringing herself to Grace's eye level. "Look at me, sweet girl." Grace looked. Her eyes were too old, too tired, too weary of a world that had taught her men were dangerous and trust was foolish. "I know you are scared," Emma said softly. "I know men have given you reason to be scared, but we got no choice right now. We got nowhere else to go. We could leave in the morning, go where—" Emma shook her head. "Baby, we've been walking for 4 months. We got no money, no food, no place that will take us. Your brother almost died tonight." She paused. Let that sink in. Let Grace see the truth they had both been avoiding. "This man opened his door when nobody else would. That does not mean we trust him blind, but it means we give him a chance. You understand?" Grace's lip trembled. Just barely. Just for a second. Then she locked it down, that steel coming back into her spine, the armor she wore every day. "I will watch him," she said. "Every minute. If he tries anything, I got this." She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a rock, sharp-edged, stained dark on one side. Emma recognized it. The rock from Laramie. The rock Grace had used to make a man bleed when he tried to drag Emma into an alley behind the saloon. "You keep that close," Emma said, "just in case. Always do." They settled onto the beds. Emma held Ben against her chest. His breathing was steady now, his color coming back. Life returning where minutes ago there had been only the blue shadow of death. Rose curled up beside them, already half asleep, the exhaustion of survival pulling her under. Grace sat on the other bed facing the door, the rock in her lap, eyes open, alert, standing guard over her family the way she had done for 2 years now, ever since Thomas started drinking in earnest, ever since trust became a luxury they could not afford. They were still in that position when Nathan returned with a tray. Coffee, bread, some kind of stew that smelled better than anything Emma had eaten in months, rich and thick and real. He stopped in the doorway, took in the scene. His eyes lingered on Grace and her rock. "Good," he said quietly. "Keep it sharp." Grace blinked, surprise breaking through her careful mask. "You ain't going to tell me to put it away?" "Why would I?" Nathan set the tray on the small table by the window. "Girl your age been through what you been through ought to have something to protect herself with." He met Grace's eyes, direct, unflinching. "Just make sure you hit hard enough to count if you ever got to use it." "I hit hard enough," Grace said. "Ask the man in Laramie." Nathan nodded. Something like respect flickered in his expression. "I reckon he learned that the hard way." He turned to Emma. "Eat something. You are thin as a fence rail. Cannot take care of them young ones if you are too weak to stand." Emma wanted to argue, wanted to say she had been taking care of her children just fine, but the smell of that stew made her stomach cramp with hunger, and the truth was she had not eaten in 2 days, had given her portion to the children, had told herself she was not hungry, had told herself she was fine, had lied. "Thank you," she said instead. Nathan nodded and moved toward the door. "Mr. Hayes?" He stopped, hand on the door frame, back to her. "Why did you open your door?" Emma had to ask, had to know. 4 other ranches today. They saw us. They saw my children. They closed their doors anyway. Why did you not?" Nathan was quiet for a long moment. His hand rested on the wood, his shoulders tight with something that might have been memory or might have been pain. When he spoke, his voice was rough, like the words had to be dragged out of somewhere deep. "Had a wife once, Rebecca. She died 6 years back. Birthing complications. Baby died too." Emma's chest tightened. "I am sorry." She always said this house was too quiet, too empty. Said she wanted it full of children someday. Nathan's fingers tightened on the wood. "I've been keeping it empty on purpose, keeping everyone out. Figured if nobody was here, nobody could leave." He paused. "But when I saw your boy's face blue like that, I thought Rebecca would have opened that door, would not have even hesitated. And if I kept it closed, if I let a child die on my porch to protect myself from hurting again, I would be spitting on everything she was." He turned. His eyes met Emma's across the small room. "I did not open that door for you, Mrs. Bennett. I opened it for her." Then he was gone. The door closed softly. leaving Emma alone with her children and the ghost of a dead woman who had saved them all. Emma stared at the empty doorway for a long moment. Beside her, Rose had fallen fully asleep. Ben was breathing steady against her chest. Grace still sat watchful, but her grip on the rock had loosened. "Mama." Grace's voice was soft. "His wife died." "I heard." "That is why the house is so sad." Grace had seen it somehow, had felt what Emma had felt walking through those empty rooms, the weight of absence, the silence of grief. "People carry their sorrow different ways," Emma said. "Some folks bury it. Some folks drown in it. He has been drowning, I reckon." Grace was quiet for a moment. "He did not look at you the way those other men did, the ones who wanted things." "No," Emma agreed. "He did not. That is something, I guess. That is something." They ate in silence. The stew was good, hearty and warm, made with care by someone who knew how to feed people properly. Emma made herself eat slowly, even though she wanted to devour it, made herself save some for Ben when he woke, made herself remember how to be civilized after 4 months of survival. Later, after the candles were blown out and the room had settled into darkness, Emma lay awake listening to her children breathe. The sound was sweeter than music, sweeter than prayer, the sound of life continuing when it had come so close to ending. 4 months ago she had buried Thomas, not mourned him. By the end there had been nothing left to mourn. The man she married at 18 had been dead for years before his body caught up. The man who took his place had been someone she did not recognize, someone who drank and hit and broke things, broke her. His family blamed her, of course, said she had driven him to the bottle, said she had been a bad wife, a cold woman, a failure. They took everything, the house, the money, the furniture. Left her standing in the street with 3 children and the clothes on their backs. So Emma had walked west. What else was there to do? She had worked where she could, washing dishes, scrubbing floors, mending clothes for pennies, always moving, always searching for somewhere that might become home. And now she was here, in a sad man's house, warm for the first time in weeks, her children safe for the first time in months. It would not last. Nothing good ever did. But for tonight it was enough. For tonight she would let herself rest. Morning came gray and cold, the kind of cold that sinks into bones and refuses to leave. Emma woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of voices in the kitchen. Rose's voice, bright and chattering like a bird, like she had not been half dead from cold and exhaustion just hours ago. Emma sat up fast, heart pounding. Ben was still asleep beside her, his breathing deep and even, color back in his face. But Grace's bed was empty. Emma moved quickly, did not bother with her shoes, followed the voices, found Rose sitting at the kitchen table with a plate of flapjacks in front of her, talking to Nathan like they had known each other forever. And then Mama said we had to leave real fast because the man was bleeding all over, and Grace said it was his own fault for grabbing, and I said the blood looked like paint. But Mama said it was not paint, it was real blood, and I never seen so much blood before except when Daddy broke the bottle and cut his hand. But that was different because— Rose. Emma's voice came out sharper than she meant. Rose spun around. "Mama? Mr. Nathan makes the best flapjacks. Better than Daddy's even." Nathan stood at the stove, spatula in hand, looking vaguely uncomfortable with Rose's praise. She wandered in. I figured she needed feeding. "Where is Grace?" "Outside." Nathan flipped a flapjack with practiced ease. Said she wanted to check the barn, make sure there weren't any threats. I reckon she means men, or dangers, or both. Emma moved toward the door. "Ma'am?" Nathan's voice stopped her. "Your daughter's got more steel in her spine than most men I know. She wanted to see the lay of the land. I wasn't about to stop her." "You let her go alone." "Been watching from the window." Nathan nodded toward the glass. "She is in the stable talking to my horses. Safer than she has been in months, I would wager." Emma hesitated. He was right. Grace needed to feel in control, needed to scout their surroundings, needed to know the exits and the dangers and the layout. It was how she coped, how she had kept them alive. "Sit down," Nathan said, not unkind but firm. "Eat. Your girl will come back when she is ready." Emma sat. Nathan set a plate in front of her. Flapjacks golden brown with honey drizzled on top. The kind of breakfast that spoke of normalcy, of routine, of a life where food was abundant and children were safe, and mornings did not begin with the question of survival. "Rose was right," Emma said after the first bite. "These are good." Nathan made that rusty, almost laugh sound again. "Rebecca taught me. Said a man who cannot cook is only half useful. She sounds like she was a smart woman." She was. His voice did not waver, but something shifted in his eyes, something that looked like love worn smooth by grief. "Smartest person I ever knew." The kitchen door opened. Grace came in stamping snow off her boots, her cheeks red from cold but her eyes alert, taking in the room, taking in Nathan, taking in her mother and sister. Eating breakfast like this was normal, like they belonged here. "You got 4 horses," Grace announced. "A gray mare, a black gelding, a bay, and a black stallion that tried to bite me." "That would be Demon," Nathan said. "Do not take it personal. He tries to bite everyone." Grace almost smiled. Almost. "Why did you name him Demon?" "Because when I bought him, the fella selling him said he was gentle as a lamb. Biggest lie I ever been told. But he is a good horse under all that meanness. Just takes time to earn his trust." Grace considered this, measuring it against her own experience, finding it true. "I like the gray mare." "Dusty," Rose said through a mouthful of flapjacks. "Everybody likes Dusty. She's got kind eyes." "Sit down." Nathan pointed Grace to a chair. "Eat something. Then we need to talk about what happens next." Grace sat. She took a plate but did not eat right away. Instead, she watched Nathan with those measuring eyes. Emma watched her daughter watch him, saw the way Grace was looking for tells, for signs, for the moment when the mask would slip and the meanness would show through. But Nathan just cooked, just served, just moved around his kitchen like feeding 3 strangers was the most natural thing in the world. Ben's voice came from the doorway. "Mama?" Emma turned. Her boy stood there wrapped in a blanket, pale but standing on his own 2 feet, alive. "Oh, baby." She was across the room in 3 steps, gathering him into her arms. "How do you feel?" "Hungry. That is the best word I heard in days." Emma pressed her lips to his forehead, checking for fever, finding only warmth, normal warmth, living warmth. "Come sit. Let's get you fed." Ben let her lead him to the table, but when she tried to set him in a chair, he pulled away and walked to Nathan instead. Looked up at the tall man with serious brown eyes. "You are the man who made me warm." Nathan looked down at the small boy. Something in his face softened. "That is right. Mama says you saved my life." Nathan's jaw tightened. "Your mama and sisters did most of the saving. I just opened a door." Ben reached up and took Nathan's hand, small fingers wrapping around calloused palm. "Thank you for opening your door." Something cracked in Nathan's face, a wall coming down, just a little, just enough for light to get through. "You are welcome, son." They ate breakfast together, all 5 of them around a table that had been empty for 6 years. Rose chattered about the horses. Ben sat close to his mother, eating steadily, color returning to his face. Grace remained watchful but less hostile, and Nathan sat at the head of the table looking at the small family that had invaded his solitude and felt something stir in his chest that he thought was dead. Rebecca's voice whispered in his memory, "Fill this house, Nathan. Do not let it stay empty." He had been empty for so long, hollow, a man going through motions without purpose. But Ben's hand in his had been warm, and Rose's chatter had filled the silence, and Grace's wariness had reminded him that trust was earned, not given. And Emma. He did not let himself think about Emma yet. That was a road too dangerous to walk, not after 6 years of being numb, not after 6 years of safety and solitude. "We need to discuss arrangements." Emma set down her fork. Her voice was steady, businesslike, the voice of a woman who had learned not to expect charity. "I meant what I said last night. I will work for our keep." "I figured you would." Nathan leaned back in his chair. "Here's what I'm thinking. New Year's Eve is in 3 days. I got neighbors coming for a gathering I agreed to host months back. Been dreading it, truth be told. House ain't fit for company, and I ain't got the first idea what to cook for a crowd." "You want me to help prepare?" "I want you to take over the whole thing." Nathan met her eyes. "Cleaning, cooking, decorating, making this place look like something other than a tomb. In exchange, you and your young ones stay through winter. Warm beds, regular meals, roof over your heads. Come spring, you will have some money saved, and you can decide where you want to go next." Emma was quiet for a moment. "That is generous." "That is practical." Nathan's voice was gruff. "I got a house needs tending and you got children need shelter. Seems like we can help each other out." "What about after the gathering?" "After New Year's." "Same arrangement. You keep house. I pay fair wages. Your young ones go to school in town when the weather permits." Grace's head came up. "School. Got a schoolhouse in Elborn," Nathan said. 15 miles east. Teacher named Miss Holliday. She is good. Strict, but good." Grace's face did something complicated. Hope and fear and longing all tangled together. "I ain't been to school since we left Ohio," she said. "Mama taught us on the road, but it ain't the same." Nathan nodded. "I know." He looked at Emma. "Education matter to you?" "More than anything." Emma's voice was fierce. "My girls are smart. Ben too. They deserve better than being ignorant." "Then they will go to school." Nathan said it like it was decided, like it was fact. "When the weather allows." Rose bounced in her seat. "A real school with other children and books? Real school, real children, real books." Nathan's mouth twitched. Something that might have been a smile if it was not so unused to the shape. "Though I should warn you, there is a boy named Tommy Miller who puts frogs in girls' desks. Be on your guard." Rose's eyes went wide with delight. "Frogs?" Grace rolled her eyes. She would think that is exciting. But for the first time since Emma had met her, Grace looked like a 12-year-old instead of a tiny adult. Looked like a girl who might get to be a girl again. "It is a deal, then." Emma extended her hand. Nathan looked at her hand. Then he reached out and shook it. His palm was warm and rough and steady. Emma felt something spark when their skin touched. Something she had not felt in years. Something she was not sure she wanted to feel. She pulled her hand back quickly. "I will start on the house today," she said. Her voice was brisk, professional. "Show me what needs doing." They spent the morning walking through the ranch house. Emma took stock of what needed cleaning, what needed mending, what needed replacing altogether. The house had good bones, solid construction, quality furniture, rooms that had been beautiful once and could be again. But neglect had taken its toll. Dust covered everything. Cobwebs hung in corners. The curtains were faded, the floors unpolished, the windows grimy with years of accumulated dirt. "How long since anyone cleaned proper?" Emma asked, running a finger along a mantel and leaving a trail in the dust. 6 years. Nathan's voice was flat. "Since Rebecca passed." Emma stopped, looked at him. 6 years you've been living like this?" Did not see the point in doing different. He shrugged, but the motion was too tight, too controlled. "Ain't nobody here to see it, ain't nobody here to care. You are here. Do not hardly count." Emma studied him. This sad, hollowed-out man who had saved her son and offered her family shelter. "It counts, Mr. Hayes," she said quietly. "You count." He did not answer, but something flickered in his eyes. Something that might have been surprise, or might have been the first crack in 6 years of not counting. They moved on. At the end of the hallway they reached the closed door with the woman's shawl on the hook, blue and faded. Nathan stopped. His whole body went rigid. That was her room. His voice came out rough. Where she did her sewing and reading. Where she went when she wanted quiet. Emma waited. "Ain't been in there since she died," he continued. Could not. Cannot. He shook his head. That room does not need cleaning. All right. Emma did not push. Some wounds were not ready to be touched. They finished the tour. Emma made mental lists, prioritized tasks, planned the work. By afternoon, she had Grace helping her take down the dusty curtains, while Rose entertained Ben by making up stories about the horses. The house began to transform, slowly, one room at a time, light pouring in through clean windows, the smell of soap and lemon oil replacing the stale scent of neglect. Nathan watched from the doorway of his study, pretending to work on ledgers, actually watching this woman and her children bring life back into his dead house. Rebecca would have liked her. The thought came unbidden. Rebecca would have liked her strength, her determination, the way she protected her children without smothering them. But Rebecca was gone, had been gone for 6 years, and wanting things did not bring them back. Nathan bent over his ledgers and tried not to notice how Emma's laughter sounded when Rose said something funny, tried not to notice how the house felt warmer with people in it, tried not to notice how something in his chest had started beating again after being still for so long. He was just helping them through winter. That was all. Come spring, they would move on and he would go back to his empty house and his empty life. That was the plan. But plans, Nathan was learning, had a way of changing when you were not looking. Evening came. Emma cooked dinner. A real dinner from the supplies in Nathan's pantry. Roasted chicken potatoes, biscuits that rose light and golden. They ate together again. Again the table felt less empty. Again the house felt less like a tomb. "Mr. Nathan," Rose said, her mouth full of biscuit, "why don't you got any Christmas things up?" "Rose," Emma warned, but Nathan answered, "Have not celebrated Christmas in a long time." "How long?" 6 years. Rose's eyes went wide. "That is forever. That is almost as long as I've been alive." "I reckon it feels like forever sometimes," Nathan agreed. "Do not you get lonely?" "Rose," Grace's voice was sharp, "leave him be." "It is all right." Nathan looked at the youngest girl. "Yeah, I get lonely, but lonely felt safer than the alternative." "What is the alternative?" "Letting people in." He glanced at Emma, then away. "Caring about folks, risking losing them." Rose considered this with the seriousness only a child could bring to such weighty matters. "That is dumb," she finally declared. "Rose?" Emma was horrified, but Nathan laughed, actually laughed, a real sound, rusty but genuine. "You know what," he said, "you might be right about that." "Of course I am right," Rose nodded firmly. "Mama says being alone is the hardest thing, harder than being scared, harder than anything. She said that is why we keep going even when everything is bad, because being together is better than being safe and alone." Emma's cheeks flushed. "Rose, that was a private conversation." "It is true, though." Rose looked at Nathan. "And you opened your door, so maybe you are done being alone now." Nathan met the child's eyes. 8 years old, and she could see right through him, see past the walls and the grief and the careful distance he kept from everyone. "Maybe I am," he said softly. "Maybe I am." After dinner, after the children were settled in their room, Emma found Nathan on the porch, staring out at the snow. The night was clear and cold. Stars scattered across the black sky like spilled salt. She wrapped her shawl tighter and stepped outside. "Mind if I join you?" "Free country." She stood beside him. Not too close. The night was quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after snow. Soft and deep and complete. "I want to thank you proper," Emma said. "For today, for all of it." "You already thanked me." "Words," she said. "Words are easy." She turned to face him. "You gave my children safety, gave them hope. That little girl has not smiled like she did today in months. And Grace. Grace has been carrying the weight of a grown woman since she was 10 years old. Today is the first time I seen her let some of that weight go." Nathan was quiet. "I know you said you did not do it for us," Emma continued. "Said you did it for your wife, for Rebecca. But it does not matter why you did it. What matters is you did. And I ain't going to forget that." Nathan finally looked at her. In the starlight, his eyes were less empty. Still sad, but something else too. Something that might have been the beginning of something. "Your daughter said something today," he said slowly, "about failing versus losing. That failing is when you have a choice and choose wrong. Losing is when you do everything right and it still does not matter." Emma remembered. At dinner during one of their many conversations, she had not realized he had been listening so closely. "I've been calling myself a failure for 6 years. Nathan's voice was rough. "Telling myself I failed Rebecca, failed our baby, failed at being a husband and a father before I ever got the chance to really be one. Mr. Hayes. But maybe—" he swallowed hard. "Maybe I just lost them. Maybe there was nothing I could have done different. Maybe I've been punishing myself for something that was not my fault." Emma's heart ached for this man, for his grief, for the years he had wasted in the prison of his own guilt. "It was not your fault," she said. "Losing someone you love, it is never your fault. It just is. And the only thing you can do is keep living, keep going even when it hurts, especially when it hurts." They stood in silence. The cold pressed in around them, but neither moved to go inside. "What happens now?" Emma finally asked. "Now we get through New Year's," Nathan said. "Get through winter, take it one day at a time. And then we see." It was not a promise. It was not a plan. But standing there in the starlight with her children warm and safe inside, with this broken man beside her who had opened his door when no one else would, it was enough. For now, it was enough. Nathan stood alone on his porch long after Emma had gone inside. The cold bit at his face, but he did not move, just stood there looking at his house, at the windows glowing with light, at the shadows moving inside, Emma putting children to bed, Grace standing guard one more night, Rose already asleep, Ben breathing steady and alive. His house had not looked like this in 6 years, had not felt like this. Alive, full, warm with something other than fire. Rebecca's voice whispered in the winter wind, "This is what I wanted for you. This is what I wanted for us." Nathan reached into his pocket and pulled out the letter that had arrived that afternoon from town. White envelope, no return address, elegant handwriting that spoke of money and education and someone who had never worked with their hands. He had not shown it to Emma, had not wanted to worry her, had told himself it was nothing, just someone being nosy, just small-town gossip spreading. But the words stayed with him. A widow living with an unmarried man. 3 children in an improper situation. This will not end well. Nathan crumpled the letter and shoved it back in his pocket. Whoever had sent it did not matter, would not matter. He would make sure of that. But even as he thought it, even as he promised himself, he would protect this family. A small voice in the back of his mind whispered the truth he did not want to hear. Everyone he had ever loved had left him. One way or another they all left. Why would this be different? Nathan looked up at the stars, at the vast, indifferent universe that took and took and took and gave back nothing but emptiness. "If you are listening," he said to Rebecca, or God, or whoever might be out there in the dark, "do not take them too. I could not survive it again." The wind was his only answer, cold and indifferent as always. Inside, Emma lay awake in the dark, listening to her children breathe. Grace had finally fallen asleep, the rock loose in her hand. Rose snored softly. Ben curled against Emma's side, warm and alive and safe. For the first time in 4 months, Emma let herself think about the future. Not the immediate future of survival and next meals and next shelter, but the real future. Spring, summer, years stretching ahead. What if they stayed? What if this became home? What if this sad man and this broken family found a way to heal each other? It was dangerous to hope. Emma knew that. Had learned it the hard way. Hope was the thing that hurt you worst when it died. But lying there in the warm dark, listening to her children breathe, Emma let herself hope anyway. Just a little. Just enough. Tomorrow she would be practical again. Tomorrow she would be careful. Tomorrow she would remember that nothing good lasted. But tonight she would hope. The next 3 days passed in a blur of transformation. Emma attacked the house like it had personally wronged her. She scrubbed floors that had not seen soap in years. She beat rugs until clouds of dust rose like smoke signals. She polished windows until they sparkled, letting light pour into rooms that had forgotten what sunshine looked like. Grace worked beside her mother without complaint. The girl had a talent for organization, sorting through cluttered cupboards and bringing order to chaos. She did not talk much, but she did not need to. Her hands spoke for her, steady and capable and relentless. Rose appointed herself entertainment committee. She made up songs while she dusted. She told stories to Ben while Emma worked. She asked Nathan approximately 400 questions a day about horses and snow, and whether he had ever shot a real outlaw, and why the sky was blue, and did he think chickens were smarter than people thought. Nathan answered every question with more patience than Emma would have expected. The man who had been a ghost in his own house was slowly becoming solid again, pulled back to life by an 8-year-old girl who did not know the meaning of boundaries. "You are good with her," Emma said on the second morning, watching Nathan show Rose how to brush Dusty's mane. "Most men would have lost patience by now." Nathan shrugged. "She reminds me of someone." "Your wife?" "My sister." Nathan's hand stilled on the brush. "Eliza. She died 4 years back. Fever took her during a bad winter. Could not get to her in time. The roads were snowed in, and by the time I made it through, she was already gone." Emma's chest tightened. "You lost your wife and your sister." "And my parents years before that. And a baby I never got to hold." Nathan resumed brushing, his movements mechanical. "Seems like everyone I care about finds a way to leave." "That ain't your fault." "Did not say it was. Just said it happens." Rose tugged on his sleeve. "Mr. Nathan, you are being sad again. I can tell because your face goes all tight like this." She scrunched up her features in an exaggerated frown. Nathan stared at her. Then he laughed. That rusty sound that was becoming less rusty with each passing day. "You got no filter, do you, little miss?" "Mama says I got too much honesty and not enough sense." Rose grinned. "But I think honesty is better than sense. Sense is boring." "Cannot argue with that logic." Emma watched them together and felt her heart do something complicated in her chest. Rose had a gift for finding the cracks in people's armor and wiggling through. She had done it with strangers on the road, charming food out of reluctant shopkeepers and smiles out of exhausted travelers. Now she was doing it with Nathan, and Emma was not sure whether to be grateful or terrified. Grateful, she decided. Whatever happened come spring, Rose would have given this man something he had been missing, and maybe he had given her something too. A father figure who did not raise his hand. A man who answered her questions instead of telling her to shut up. That was worth something. That was worth a lot. Ben's attachment to Nathan grew stronger with each passing day. The boy followed him everywhere, a small shadow with big brown eyes. He did not talk much still. The silence of trauma hung on him like a coat. But he watched, learned. When Nathan fixed a broken chair, Ben handed him tools. When Nathan checked on the horses, Ben stood beside him, mimicking his stance. On the afternoon before New Year's Eve, Emma found them in the barn together. Nathan was teaching Ben how to saddle Dusty properly. The boy's small hands struggled with the heavy leather, but he did not give up, did not ask for help, just kept trying with that fierce determination Emma recognized from herself. "Good," Nathan said. "You almost got it. Just tighten that strap there. Yeah, like that." Ben pulled the strap. The saddle settled into place. He looked up at Nathan with something like pride in his eyes. "I did it." "You did." Nathan ruffled his hair. "Few more times and you will be doing it faster than me." Ben glowed, actually glowed with the simple pleasure of praise earned. Emma's throat tightened. Thomas had never praised their children, had only criticized, had only torn down. This quiet approval from Nathan was water in a desert. By the evening of December 30th, the house had transformed completely. The rooms gleamed. Fresh pine boughs hung over doorways, filling the air with the scent of winter forest. Candles stood ready in every window, waiting to be lit when darkness fell. The long table in the dining room was set for 20 people. Emma had found dishes in a cupboard, good china with delicate blue patterns, the kind of dishes that spoke of a woman who had cared about beauty and hospitality. Rebecca's dishes, Rebecca's decorations, Rebecca's dream of a house full of life and laughter. Emma stood in the dining room looking at her work and felt the ghost of the dead woman standing beside her. "I hope I am doing right by your home," Emma thought. "I hope you do not mind us being here." The air seemed to shift, just slightly, as if in answer, as if Rebecca's spirit was giving permission, giving blessing. Or maybe Emma was just tired. 4 months of survival followed by 3 days of hard work had worn her down to the bone. She was seeing things that were not there, feeling things that could not be felt. "It looks beautiful." Emma turned. Nathan stood in the doorway. He was staring at the room, but his eyes held something Emma had not seen before. Not quite happiness, not yet, but maybe the beginning of it, the possibility. "She would have loved this," he said. His voice was thick. "Rebecca, she would have loved what you'd done." "I hope so. I know so." Nathan stepped into the room, ran his hand along the back of a chair. "This is what she wanted, what she dreamed about, a house full of people and noise and life. I could never give it to her, but you did." Emma did not know what to say to that, how to respond to grief and gratitude tangled together so tightly they became one thing. "Thank you," Nathan said, "for giving her this, even if she cannot see it, even if it is 6 years too late. Thank you." Emma nodded, could not speak, could only feel the weight of this man's sorrow and the strange honor of being allowed to shoulder some of it. They stood in the warm room with the scent of pine and beeswax and something that might have been hope, or might have been the ghost of a woman who had loved this house and wanted it filled. Either way, it felt like blessing. The guests began arriving at 6 o'clock on New Year's Eve. First came Martha and Jacob Davis in their wagon with bells jingling on the horses' harness. Martha was a round woman with warm eyes and quick hands. Jacob was thin and weathered with a handshake that could crush stone. Nathan Hayes. Martha swept into the house and grabbed Nathan in a hug he clearly was not expecting. 6 years I've been trying to get you to host a gathering and you've finally done it." She pulled back and looked at him hard. "You look different, less like a man waiting to die." "Martha," Jacob warned. "Oh, hush. It is true, and we all know it." Martha turned and spotted Emma hovering in the kitchen doorway. "And who might this be?" "Emma Hayes, ma'am." Emma stepped forward, wiping her hands on her apron. "I am helping Mr. Hayes with the preparations. I mean Emma Bennett, Mrs. Bennett." She stumbled over her own name, flustered. Martha's eyes moved between Emma and Nathan with knowing calculation. "Helping. Is that what they are calling it these days? Ma'am, it ain't like that." Emma felt heat rise to her cheeks. "I needed work. He needed help. That is all." Martha's tone said she did not believe a word of it. "Well, whatever it is good to see this house looking like a home again." She spotted Rose peeking around the corner. "And who is this little one?" Rose bounded forward with zero hesitation. "I am Rose. That is my mama. I have a sister named Grace and a brother named Ben. Mr. Nathan saved Ben's life when he stopped breathing. Now we live here and I help with the horses. Dusty is my favorite. She has kind eyes and—" "Well, ain't you just a fountain of information?" Martha laughed, a big genuine sound that filled the room. "I like this one, Nathan. She got more personality than you shown in 6 years combined." Nathan made that rusty sound that was becoming more like a real laugh. "She got more personality than most folks I ever known." More neighbors arrived. The Hendersons, an older couple with matching silver hair and gentle faces. The Dawsons, young and newly married, nervous at their first social gathering. The Millers with their son Tommy, who Rose immediately challenged to a staring contest. The house filled with voices and warmth and the smell of good food. Emma moved through the gathering like she had been born to host, refilling glasses, making sure everyone had what they needed, introducing Grace and Ben to the neighbors with quiet pride. Grace helped serve, her watchfulness softening as she saw how the neighbors treated her mother with respect and kindness rather than suspicion. No one looked at Emma like she was property. No one made comments about a widow traveling alone. No one suggested anything improper. Ben stayed close to Nathan, holding onto his pant leg whenever too many strangers got near, and Nathan let him. Adjusted his movements to accommodate the small shadow at his side. Introduced him to neighbors with a casual possessiveness that made Emma's throat tight. "This here is Ben. He is staying with me for a spell. Good boy. Quiet, but he sees everything." The words were simple, but the way Nathan's hand rested on Ben's shoulder, protective and gentle, said something more. Said this child matters. Said hurt him and answer to me. Said mine. Emma watched and felt her heart do something dangerous, something that felt like falling, something that felt like hope. Midway through the evening, during a lull in conversation, Ben was running through the house with Tommy Miller. They were playing some game that involved being horses and making loud neighing sounds. Ben rounded a corner too fast. His feet slipped on the polished floor. He went down hard, hit the ground with a thud that made everyone turn. The room went silent. Ben lay on the floor for one terrible moment. Emma started toward him, but Nathan was faster. He crossed the room in 3 strides, knelt down, scooped Ben up in his arms. "You are okay, son." Nathan's voice was gentle. "Just got the wind knocked out of you. You are okay." Ben gasped, started breathing again, then started crying. Not from pain, from shock, from the sudden fall and the moment of terror. "Shh, Papa's got you. Papa's got you." The word fell into the silence like a stone into still water, ripples spreading out in every direction. Papa. Nathan had said Papa. The entire room froze. Emma's heart stopped. Grace's head snapped up. Martha's eyes went wide. And Ben, still crying, wrapped his arms around Nathan's neck and buried his face in his shoulder and said it again. "Papa." The word was muffled, barely audible, but everyone heard it. Everyone felt the weight of it. This child who had been silent for weeks, this child who had nearly died in the snow, this child was calling a man he had known for 3 days Papa. Nathan's eyes closed. His arms tightened around Ben. His whole body shook with something that might have been joy, or might have been grief, or might have been both. "I got you," he whispered. "Papa's got you. You are safe." Emma stood across the room with her hand over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. This was not supposed to happen. They were just staying through winter. This was temporary. This was practical. This was not supposed to become real, but it was real. As real as Ben's arms around Nathan's neck, as real as the way Nathan held him like he would never let go, as real as the way every person in that room could feel the shape of a family forming right in front of them. Martha came to stand beside Emma, put a gentle hand on her arm. "That man loves those children," she said softly. "I know," Emma whispered. "That is what scares me." "Why?" "Because we cannot stay forever, and when we leave it will break him. It will break all of them." Martha squeezed her arm. "Or maybe you do not have to leave at all. Maybe this is where you are supposed to be." Emma could not answer. Could only watch as Nathan carried Ben to a chair and sat with him. Could only watch as Rose and Grace moved closer, forming a tight circle around them. Could only watch as her family and this broken man became something that looked an awful lot like whole. The party continued. Someone brought out a fiddle. Jacob Davis played while couples danced in the cleared space of the dining room. Emma found herself pulled into a dance by young Mr. Dawson, who was eager to show off the steps he had learned. She laughed and let herself be spun around the room. When the song ended, Nathan was there, standing at the edge of the dancers, looking at her with something in his eyes she could not quite name. "May I?" he asked. Emma's heart stuttered. "I do not know if that is proper, with everyone watching. I do not much care what is proper anymore." Nathan held out his hand. "May I have this dance, Mrs. Bennet?" Emma looked at his outstretched hand. Calloused, steady, strong, the hand that had saved her son, the hand that had opened his door, the hand that was offering her something she had not had in years, a choice, not a demand, not a command, a choice. She took his hand. The fiddle started again. Slow this time. A waltz. Nathan's hand settled on her waist. Emma's hand rested on his shoulder. They began to move, awkward at first, finding the rhythm, finding each other. "I do not remember the last time I danced," Nathan said. "Rebecca." "Our wedding, 7 years ago." His hand tightened slightly on her waist. "I swore I would never dance with another woman. Swore a lot of things, actually, about what I would and would not do after she was gone. And now I am breaking those promises." Nathan looked down at her. His face was inches from hers. "And I do not feel guilty about it. I thought I would, but I do not." "Why not?" "Because I think she would want this, want me to live again, want me to find—" He trailed off, did not finish, could not. "Find what?" Emma asked softly. "Someone to fill the empty places." They turned slowly in the warm room surrounded by neighbors and children and the gentle sound of a fiddle playing something old and sad and beautiful. Emma felt the solid weight of Nathan's hand on her waist, felt his breath on her face, felt the way her heart was beating too fast and too loud. This was dangerous. This was foolish. This was everything she had sworn she would not let herself want again. But she wanted it anyway. God help her, she wanted it. The song ended. They stood for a moment still holding each other. Then Nathan stepped back, released her, put proper distance between them again. "Thank you for the dance, Mrs. Bennet." "Thank you, Mr. Hayes." They were so careful with their words, so formal, as if formality could protect them from what was growing between them, as if using proper names could keep it safe and manageable and temporary. But Emma saw the way Martha was looking at them, saw the knowing smile on Mrs. Henderson's face, saw the way the whole room had noticed the dance and understood what it meant. She was not fooling anyone, least of all herself. As midnight approached, everyone gathered on the porch to watch the stars and ring in 1883. Someone had brought whiskey. Someone else had brought cider for the children. The music continued rough but joyful, filling the cold night with something that felt like hope. Emma stood with her children around her. Rose was teaching Tommy Miller a clapping game. Ben had fallen asleep against Nathan's chest carried there when his legs got too tired. Grace stood beside her mother, less weary now, almost relaxed. "This is nice," Grace said quietly. "I forgot what nice felt like." Emma put her arm around her daughter. "It has been a long time since we had nice. Do you think it will last?" The question was so raw, so vulnerable, so unlike Grace, who never let herself be vulnerable anymore. Emma had to swallow hard before answering. "I do not know, baby. I hope so. But even if it does not, we will have had this. We will have had tonight. Sometimes that is enough." Grace leaned into her mother's side. "You like him, Mr. Hayes." "It is complicated. Grown-up things are always complicated." Grace sighed like she was 40 instead of 12. "But I've been watching him 3 days now, and I think maybe he is different." "Different how?" "Different from Daddy, different from the men in Laramie, different from everyone who looked at us like we were problems to get rid of." Grace looked up at her mother. "He looks at us like we are people, like we matter." Emma's eyes burned with tears she refused to shed. "You do matter, baby. You have always mattered." "I know," Grace's voice was soft. "But it is nice when someone else knows it too." The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. Emma looked across the porch to where Nathan stood, Ben sleeping in his arms. He caught her eye. Something passed between them, something wordless and powerful and terrifying. 7, 6, 5. She thought about the road that had brought her here, the loss and the fear and the endless walking, the doors that had slammed in her face, the cold that had nearly killed her son. 4, 3, 2. And she thought about this door, this man, this chance she had not been looking for. 1. Happy New Year. Cheers erupted. The fiddle struck up a lively tune. Neighbors embraced and laughed and wished each other well. Emma stayed where she was, watching Nathan across the crowd, watching the way he held her son, watching the way he looked at her with eyes that were no longer empty. He made his way through the crowd to her side. Ben stirred, but did not wake. "Happy New Year, Mrs. Bennett. Happy New Year, Mr. Hayes." They stood close enough to touch, but not touching. Around them the world celebrated new beginnings. "Reckon this year might be different," Nathan said quietly. "Reckon it might be better." "You think so?" "I am starting to." He shifted Ben's weight slightly. "Ain't felt that way in a long time. Feeling it now scares me some." "Being scared means you got something to lose," Emma said. Nathan looked at her. His eyes, those winter eyes that had been so empty 3 days ago, held something new, something alive. "Yeah," he said, "I reckon I do." The moment stretched between them, full of possibility, full of danger, full of everything they were not saying out loud. Then Rose crashed into Emma's legs, dragging Tommy Miller behind her. "Mama, Tommy says girls cannot rope cattle, but I told him that is stupid because you can do anything you set your mind to, right? Right, Mama?" Emma laughed. The tension broke. "That is right, baby." "See?" Rose turned to Tommy triumphantly. "Told you my mama can do anything." The party continued until well past midnight. The neighbors finally left around 1 in the morning, their wagons disappearing into the darkness with calls of farewell and promises to visit again soon. Martha hugged Emma before she left, whispered in her ear, "You belong here, whether you know it yet or not." Emma did not know how to respond to that, so she just nodded and watched the wagon pull away. Nathan stood beside her on the porch. The children had gone inside, finally quiet, finally still. "They did it," Emma said softly. "Your neighbors. They made this feel like a home." "Weren't just them." Nathan's voice was rough. "You did most of the work." "I cleaned and cooked. They brought the joy." Nathan shook his head. "You brought something too, something this house has been missing for 6 years. What is that?" "Life." He looked at her, his face half shadowed in the starlight. "You brought life back into this place, you and your young ones. I had forgotten what that felt like." Emma's heart beat faster. "Nathan, I ain't asking for nothing," he said quickly. "I know this is just through winter. I know you got plans and places to be. I ain't trying to complicate things." "What if I want things to be complicated?" The words were out before Emma could stop them. She had not meant to say it, had not even known she was thinking it, until the thought became sound. Nathan went very still. Emma wanted to take it back, wanted to laugh it off as a joke. Too much celebration, too little sleep, too much of everything. But she could not. The words hung between them heavy with meaning, true whether she wanted them to be or not. "You do not know me." Nathan's voice was barely above a whisper. "Not really. You do not know what I have done, what I have not done, the ways I have failed." "Then tell me." It was a challenge, an invitation, a door opening if he was brave enough to walk through it. Nathan looked at Ben sleeping peaceful in his arms, looked at the house glowing with warmth and candlelight, looked at Emma, this woman who had crawled to his door with dying children and refused to give up. "Not tonight," he finally said. "Tonight has been too good to ruin with old ghosts. But soon, if you really want to know, soon I will tell you everything, and then you can decide whether complicated is worth it." Emma nodded. That was fair. That was honest. That was more than Thomas had ever given her. "I want to know," she said. "When you are ready, I want to know." They went inside together. The house was quiet now. The candles had burned down to stubs. The pine boughs released their scent into the warm air. Emma checked on the children, all 3 sleeping, Rose and Ben in one bed, Grace in the other, finally trusting enough to sleep without standing guard. Emma stood in the doorway watching them breathe, these 3 small humans who were her whole world, who she had kept alive through sheer force of will, who deserved better than she had been able to give them. Until now. Until Nathan Hayes had opened his door. She felt him behind her, standing close, not touching, but present. "They are good children," he said softly. "They are everything." "I know." They stood together in the doorway. Two broken people watching three sleeping children. Two people who had lost everything learning how to hope again. "Good night, Mrs. Bennet." "Good night, Mr. Hayes." But neither of them moved. Neither wanted to break the moment. Neither wanted to step back into the loneliness that had been their constant companion for so long. Finally, Nathan turned and walked to his own room. Emma heard his door close, heard his boots hit the floor, heard the creak of his bed as he lay down. She went to her own small room off the kitchen, changed into her nightgown, lay down on the narrow bed, stared at the ceiling in the dark. Tomorrow she would be practical. Tomorrow she would remember all the reasons why this could not work. Tomorrow she would protect her heart. But tonight she let herself imagine, let herself wonder, let herself want. Just for tonight. Morning came cold and gray. Emma woke to silence. No children voices, no sounds of movement, just the deep quiet of snow and sleeping. She rose and dressed quickly, checked on the children, still sleeping, exhausted from the late night. She left them and went to the kitchen to start breakfast. Nathan was already there, staring at a piece of paper on the table. His face was stone. "What is it?" Emma asked. He did not answer, just pushed the paper toward her. Emma picked it up. An envelope. White. No return address. Elegant handwriting that spoke of education and money. She pulled out the letter inside. Read it. Her blood turned to ice. A widow living with an unmarried man. 3 children in an improper situation. This will not end well. The words were simple. The threat was clear. Someone was watching. Someone was judging. Someone was preparing to act. When did this come? Emma's voice was steady. Years of surviving Thomas had taught her to stay calm when fear clawed at her throat. Yesterday. I got it from town when I picked up supplies. There was another one 3 days ago. I did not want to worry you during the party. What did the first one say? Nathan pulled another letter from his pocket. Emma read it. Similar words, similar threat, warning that scandal would come, that questions would be asked. "Someone is watching us," Emma said. "I know." "Who?" "I do not know, but I intend to find out." Emma set the letters down. Her hands were shaking, but she forced them still. She had faced worse than anonymous letters, had faced Thomas's fists and his family's hatred and 4 months of walking through winter. She would not be cowed by words on paper. "What do we do?" Nathan looked at her. Something fierce burned in his eyes, something that might have been anger, or might have been protectiveness, or might have been both. "We do not let them win. We do not let some coward with a pen drive you and your children away. We do not let fear make our choices. But if people talk, people always talk. Let them." Emma wanted to believe him, wanted to have his certainty, but she knew how the world worked, knew how quickly reputation could be destroyed, knew how easily whispers could become weapons. "Maybe we should leave," she said softly, "before this gets worse, before it touches the children." "No." Nathan's voice was hard, final. "You ain't leaving. You ain't running. Not from this. Not from anonymous threats. You do not understand what scandal can do. I understand plenty." Nathan stood, moved closer. "I understand that you and your children are safe here. I understand that Ben calls me Papa. I understand that Grace is finally sleeping through the night. I understand that Rose is happy. And I understand that I will be damned if I let some coward with a pen take that away." Emma stared at him. This man who had been dead inside 3 days ago was suddenly very much alive, suddenly very much willing to fight. "Why?" she asked. "Why does it matter so much?" Nathan was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that changed everything. "Because I love you." The words fell into the silence. Simple, true, terrifying. "What?" "I love you," Nathan said again. "I love your children. I love this life we are building, and I ain't going to let it be destroyed because someone disapproves." Emma could not breathe, could not think, could not do anything but stare at this man who had just spoken words she had not heard in years, had never heard from Thomas, had thought she would never hear again. "Nathan!" The kitchen door burst open. Grace stood there. Her face was white, terrified. "Mama, there is a man outside, a stranger. He is watching the house." Nathan moved immediately. "Stay inside, lock the doors, do not open them for anyone." He grabbed his rifle from above the door and went out onto the porch. Emma followed, despite his warning. She had to see, had to know. A man stood at the edge of the property, well-dressed, city clothes, a notebook in his hands. When he saw Nathan, he did not run, did not even look concerned, just smiled. "Mr. Hayes," the man called, "my name is William Price. I am an investigator. I am here on behalf of Catherine Bennett. I believe you have her grandchildren staying with you." Emma's world tilted. Catherine Bennett, Thomas's mother. The woman who had blamed Emma for everything. The woman who had called her a murderer. The woman who had sworn Emma would never be happy again. She had found them. The investigator Price pulled out official-looking papers. "I have been hired to assess the living situation of Grace Rose and Benjamin Bennett, to determine if they are being properly cared for, or if they should be removed and placed with family." "They are with family," Emma said. Her voice shook, but she forced it steady. "I am their mother." Price looked at her. His expression was polite but cold. "Are you married to Mr. Hayes, Mrs. Bennett?" "No, but—" "Then this is an improper situation. A widow living with an unmarried man. Children exposed to scandal." Price made notes in his book. "Mrs. Catherine Bennett has concerns about her grandchildren's welfare. She has the resources and legal standing to pursue custody, unless, of course, you can demonstrate that the living arrangement is appropriate." Nathan stepped forward. His rifle was not pointed at Price, but the threat was clear. "Get off my land." "I am merely doing my job, Mr. Hayes. The law allows for investigation when concerns are raised about children's welfare. The law also allows me to remove trespassers from my property. You got 10 seconds to start walking." Price did not look concerned. He pocketed his notebook. "I have seen enough for today, but I will be back, with questions, with documentation, and possibly with a sheriff's order to remove the children." He tipped his hat and walked to his horse, mounted, looked back at them one more time. "Happy New Year, Mrs. Bennett. I hope you enjoy it. It may be your last with your children." Then he rode away. Emma stood frozen on the porch. The cold cut through her dress, but she could not feel it, could only feel the terror rising in her chest, the certainty that everything was about to be taken away. Catherine had found them. Catherine was coming for her children, and Emma had no way to stop her. Nathan's hand touched her shoulder. "We will fight this. How she has money, lawyers. I have nothing. You have me." Emma turned to look at him. This man who had just said he loved her. This man who was willing to fight for her children. "Why?" she asked again. "Why would you do this?" Nathan looked at her with those eyes that were no longer empty. "Because you are mine now, you and those children, mine to protect, mine to defend, and I do not let anyone take what is mine." It should have sounded possessive, controlling, like Thomas claiming ownership, but it did not. It sounded like a vow, like a promise, like a man drawing a line in the snow and daring anyone to cross it. Emma wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that they could fight Catherine and win. But she knew the power of money, knew the power of respectability, knew how easily a poor widow could lose everything to a wealthy grandmother who claimed to want what was best. "There is only one way to make this proper," Nathan said. "Only one way to take away their weapon." Emma knew what he was going to say before he said it, knew and felt her heart race with fear and hope and a dozen other things she could not name. "Marry me," Nathan said. "Today, tomorrow, as soon as we can get a preacher out here." Make this legal and proper and binding. Take away any grounds they have to question our arrangement. I cannot ask you to marry me just to solve a legal problem. You ain't asking, I am offering." Nathan took her hands. His were warm, steady. "And I ain't offering just because of the legal problem. I am offering because I meant what I said. I love you. I love your children. I want this to be real. Want this to be forever. The legal problem just means we do it sooner than I planned." "You planned?" "Was working up to it." He almost smiled. "Figured I would wait till spring. Give you time to be sure. Give myself time to find the courage. But sometimes timing does not get to be perfect. Sometimes you just have to jump." Emma looked at this man, this broken, grieving, beautiful man who had opened his door and changed everything. She thought about Grace sleeping through the night, about Rose's laughter, about Ben calling him Papa. She thought about the way her heart felt when he was near, the way the house felt less empty, the way she felt less alone. And she thought about Catherine Bennett with her money and her lawyers and her determination to punish Emma by taking her children. "Yes," Emma said. "Yes, I will marry you." Nathan let out a breath he had been holding, pulled her into his arms, held her tight against his chest. "I will protect them," he murmured into her hair. "I will protect all of you. I swear it on Rebecca's memory, on my sister's grave, on everything I am. They will not take your children." Emma clung to him and let herself believe it, let herself hope, let herself trust that maybe, just maybe, they could win this fight. Behind them, Grace stood in the doorway. She had heard everything. Her hand was in her pocket wrapped around her rock, but there were tears on her face. "Mama?" Emma pulled back from Nathan, held out her hand. Grace came slowly, warily, but she came. "You are getting married." "Yes." "Because of the investigator? Because of grandmother?" Emma knelt down to Grace's level. "That is part of it, but not all of it. I am marrying Mr. Hayes because he is a good man, because he loves us, because I—" She paused. Let herself say it out loud. "Because I love him too." Grace looked at Nathan. "You would fight for us, even though we ain't your blood." "You are more than blood," Nathan said. "You are mine, all of you, and I do not abandon what is mine." Grace nodded. Then she did something she had not done since Thomas died. She hugged him, threw her small arms around his waist and held on tight. Nathan's arms came around her. He looked at Emma over Grace's head. His eyes were wet. This was real. This was happening. They were becoming a family, not because of biology, not because of law, but because they chose it, because they needed each other, because broken pieces fit together in ways whole things never could. Now they just had to survive long enough to make it legal. The next 2 days were a blur of preparation. Martha came when Emma sent word. She brought supplies and determination. "We are doing this right," Martha declared. "Proper dress, proper ceremony. No judge is going to look at this wedding and see anything but a man and woman in love." "But the investigator can go to hell," Martha said cheerfully. "You let me handle the neighbors. You just focus on getting married and being happy." True to her word, Martha rallied support. The Hendersons came to help. The Dawsons brought flowers. Even young Tommy Miller's family, after some persuasion, agreed to attend. But not everyone was supportive. Emma found out 2 days before the wedding when she went to town for supplies. The general store was full of whispers. Women stopped talking when she entered. Men looked away. Emma held her head high, bought what she needed, refused to let shame touch her. As she was leaving, Mr. Miller stopped her. Tommy's father. "Mrs. Bennett?" "Mr. Miller, I want you to know that my family will not be attending your wedding after all." Emma's stomach dropped, but she kept her face calm. "May I ask why?" "Because there are questions about Mr. Hayes, about his past, about whether he is fit to be around children." "What questions?" "About a man he killed 5 years ago, about his temper, about whether he can be trusted." Mr. Miller looked uncomfortable but determined. "I have children to protect, Mrs. Bennet. I am sure you understand." Emma did understand. Understood that fear was easier than trust. Understood that protecting your own was more important than standing with strangers. Understood that she was asking people to take a risk they did not have to take. "I understand," she said quietly. "But for what it is worth, Mr. Hayes has been nothing but kind to my children. Gentle, patient, everything a father should be. Maybe so, or maybe you do not know him as well as you think." Emma went home with her supplies and her heart heavy, told Nathan what Mr. Miller had said. Nathan's face went hard. The Carter situation. What? 5 years ago, a man named Carter was attacking women in Elborn, young girls. The law could not touch him because he was careful, never got caught in the act. Nathan's voice was flat, until he went after Martha's niece, 16 years old. I happened to come along while he was dragging her into an alley. Emma waited. I stopped him, pulled him off her, and then I kept hitting him until someone pulled me off. By then Carter was dead. Nathan looked at his hands. Sheriff wanted to charge me, said I went too far, that I could have stopped him without killing him. He was probably right. What happened? Martha stood up at the hearing, told everyone what Carter had done to her niece. Then 3 other women came forward with their own stories. Turned out Carter had been hurting folks for years. Sheriff had no choice but to let me go. So you were defending someone? I was, but I also wanted to hurt him, wanted to punish him, wanted to... Nathan shook his head. I got violence in me, Emma. Darkness. Most days I keep it locked down tight. But it is there, and it scares me. Emma took his hands, looked him in the eye. You know what scares me, weakness? I was weak with Thomas for years. Let him hurt me because I was too scared to leave. You got violence? Fine. The question is what you do with it. You used yours to save a girl. That ain't darkness, Nathan. That is light. Nathan stared at her. You really believe that? I do. He pulled her into his arms, held her like she was something precious, something worth protecting. Then we will face whatever comes, he said. Together. And Emma believed him. They celebrated at the ranch that evening, just the 5 of them. Emma made dinner. They ate together as a family with real names and real vows and real hope for the future. After the children were in bed, Nathan and Emma stood on their porch, their house, their life. Do you think this is real? Emma asked. Or are we just pretending? It is as real as we make it, Nathan said, and I intend to make it very real. He kissed her again, deeper this time, not the gentle kiss of ceremony, but the passionate kiss of a man who had been alone too long and was finally home. Inside, Grace lay awake in her bed. The rock sat on the nightstand. She did not need to hold it anymore, did not need to stand guard. For the first time in 2 years, she felt safe enough to sleep. In the other bed, Rose and Ben curled together. Rose whispered stories about their new life, about school and horses and having a papa who did not hit, about being happy, about being home. Ben listened and let himself believe it, let himself hope, let himself imagine a future where every day was like today, safe and warm and full. They had 1 week of peace, 1 week of preparing for their wedding, 1 week of believing they had won. Then Catherine Bennett came for her grandchildren, and everything fell apart. The afternoon was cold but clear. Emma was in the kitchen preparing dinner when she heard the sound of horses, multiple horses, coming fast. Her heart clenched. She moved to the window. 3 riders, 2 men flanking a black carriage, expensive, the kind of carriage that spoke of money and power and the ability to buy whatever you wanted, including children. "Nathan!" Emma called. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook. He was there in seconds, looked out the window. His jaw went tight. "Get the children inside. Lock the doors." "Nathan." "Now, Emma." She ran, found Ben and Rose playing in the barn. Grace was already coming, having heard the horses. They moved fast, into the house. Emma checked the windows, the doors. Outside, Nathan stood on the porch, his rifle in his hands, waiting. The carriage stopped. A woman stepped out, tall, thin, dressed in black silk despite the cold. Her face was hard, beautiful once perhaps, but carved into something cold by years of bitterness. Catherine Bennett. "Mr. Hayes," she said. Her voice was cultured, Eastern. "I am Catherine Bennett. I believe you have my grandchildren." "They are with their mother," Nathan said, "where they belong. Their mother is a vagrant who exposed them to cold and starvation, who is now living in sin with a man she barely knows." Catherine's smile was cold. "I have legal papers granting me temporary custody while the courts investigate." She pulled papers from her reticule, held them up. "These are signed by a judge in Ohio. They give me the right to take my grandchildren into protective custody, immediately." Nathan did not move. "Get off my land." "I am within my legal rights, Mr. Hayes. Do not make this difficult. The only thing difficult here is you thinking I am going to let you take those children." Catherine's expression hardened. "Gentlemen." The two men dismounted. Big, rough, the kind of men who got paid to do things other men would not do. Inside, Emma held her children. Ben pressed against her side, Rose crying quietly. Grace standing rigid, the rock clutched in her hand. "Mama," Grace whispered, "they came for us." "I know, baby. What do we do?" Emma looked at her daughter, at the fear in those old young eyes, at the rock in her hand. "We fight." Outside, Nathan had not moved. The two men approached the porch. One of them spoke. "We don't want trouble, Mr. Hayes. Just doing a job. Step aside." "No." "Sir, we have legal papers. We can call the sheriff. Make this official." "You call anyone you want, but you are not taking those children." The first man reached for the door. Nathan's rifle came up, not pointed, just present. "Touch that door and we got a problem." "Mr. Hayes." Catherine's voice was sharp. "Violence will not help your case. In fact, it will only prove that these children are in danger." She was right. Nathan knew she was right. If he fought, if he hurt these men, it would only prove he was dangerous, would only strengthen her case. But he could not let them take Ben, could not watch another child be torn from his arms. The moment of hesitation was all they needed. The second man moved fast, slammed into Nathan from the side. They went down hard. Nathan's rifle clattered across the porch. The man's fist connected with Nathan's jaw, once, twice. Inside, Emma heard the impact, heard Nathan's grunt of pain. "Stay here," she told the children. "Mama, no." But Emma was already moving, out the door, onto the porch where Nathan was fighting two men who outweighed him and had been hired specifically for this. "Stop!" Emma screamed. "Stop it!" One of the men had Nathan pinned. The other was moving toward the door, toward her children. Emma threw herself at him, clawed at his face. He shoved her back, hard. She hit the porch rail. Pain exploded in her ribs. "Mama!" Grace's scream. The door burst open. Ben ran out, 5 years old and crying and running to Nathan. "Papa, stop hurting him." "Ben, no." Emma tried to reach him, but the man blocked her way. The man holding Nathan let go, moved toward Ben instead. Ben saw him coming, tried to run, but 5-year-old legs were no match for a grown man. He grabbed Ben, lifted him. Ben screamed. PA, don't let them take me!" Nathan surged up, blood running from his split lip. He tackled the man holding Ben. They went down together. Ben rolled free. "Run!" Nathan shouted. "Ben, run to your mama!" But the other man caught Ben, held him tight even as the boy kicked and screamed and cried. Nathan was on his feet, moving toward them. The first man hit him from behind. Nathan went down hard. His head hit the porch. Emma heard the crack. "Nathan!" He did not get up, lay there stunned, blood on the wood beneath his head. Catherine walked up the porch steps, calm, collected, as if this was all perfectly normal. "Take the boy to the carriage." "No!" Emma threw herself forward, grabbed Ben's arm. "You cannot. Please, he is my son." Ben was screaming, reaching for Nathan, who was trying to stand but kept falling, reaching for Emma, who was holding him with all her strength. "Let go, Mrs. Bennet," Catherine said coldly, "or I will have these men remove you by force. He is 5 years old. He is my grandson, and he is going with me." The man yanked, hard. Ben's fingers slipped from Emma's grasp. She lunged after him, but the other man blocked her way, shoved her back. Ben was carried to the carriage, screaming, crying, reaching back toward the house. "Mama! Mama! Pa!" Grace and Rose burst onto the porch. Grace had her rock. She threw it, hit one of the men in the shoulder. He barely flinched. "You give him back," Grace screamed. "He is our brother." Catherine looked at Grace, at Rose, at Emma on her knees on the porch, at Nathan finally struggling to his feet, blood running down the side of his face. "You have 24 hours, Catherine said. "Bring Grace and Rose to the hotel in Elborn, voluntarily, with your cooperation, or I will return with the sheriff and take them by force, and Mr. Hayes will be arrested for assaulting my men." She looked at the man Grace had hit. He nodded, confirming he would testify to assault. 24 hours, Mrs. Bennet. Make the right choice." Catherine climbed into the carriage. Ben was inside, still screaming, his small face pressed against the window, hands pounding on the glass. "Mama, Pa, don't let them take me!" The carriage pulled away. Ben's screams faded into the distance, growing quieter, quieter, gone. Emma knelt on the porch. Grace and Rose ran to her, all three of them crying, holding each other. Nathan staggered over, fell to his knees beside them, blood dripping from his head wound, his eye already swelling shut. "I am sorry," his voice was broken. "Emma, I am so sorry. I tried, but I could not." "I know." Emma pulled him into their circle, all 5 of them, except Ben. Ben was gone. "We will get him back," Nathan said. "I swear to God we will get him back." But his voice shook, because he had just learned what Emma had known all along. Sometimes love was not enough. Sometimes being right was not enough. Sometimes all the fighting in the world was not enough when someone with money and power decided they wanted to take what was yours. Grace looked at her mother, at Nathan bleeding beside them, at Rose sobbing into Emma's dress. "What do we do?" Grace asked. Her voice was small, scared, a child again instead of the tiny adult she had been forced to become. Emma looked at the road where Ben had disappeared, at the dust still settling, at the empty space where her son had been. "We fight," Emma said. Her voice was steel. "Tomorrow in court we fight, and we win, and we bring Ben home." But that night the house felt emptier than it ever had. Even Nathan's 6 years of grief had not made it feel this hollow, this wrong. In the room off the kitchen, Rose cried herself to sleep. Grace lay awake staring at the ceiling. Emma held Nathan as he cleaned his wounds. "This is my fault," Nathan said. "I should have fought harder, should have stopped them. If you had fought harder, they would have arrested you, or killed you. And then where would we be? They took him, Emma, took him right out of my arms while he screamed for me." His voice broke. Emma had never heard him cry. 6 years of grief and he had stayed dry-eyed, but now tears ran down his face mixing with the blood. "He called me Pa," Nathan whispered. "He called me Pa, and I could not protect him." Emma held him. Let him cry. Let him break. Because tomorrow they would have to be strong. Tomorrow they would have to fight the biggest battle of their lives. Tonight they were allowed to fall apart. 24 hours. That was all Catherine Bennet had given them. 24 hours to surrender Grace and Rose voluntarily, or she would return with the law and take all 3 children by force. 24 hours before Emma's family was torn apart forever, and Nathan Hayes sat in a jail cell, handcuffs biting into his wrists, watching the last of the daylight fade through barred windows. The wedding was supposed to happen in 2 hours. Martha Davis had organized everything. The neighbors had rallied. The house was prepared. The preacher was on his way. It was supposed to be simple, quick, legal. A marriage that would prove to any judge that Emma's living situation was proper and decent and right. But Catherine had moved faster. Sheriff Morrison stood outside the cell looking uncomfortable. He was a good man. Nathan knew that, had known him for 15 years, had helped him track rustlers 3 winters back, had stood witness at his daughter's wedding. "I am sorry, Nathan," the sheriff said, "not for the first time. The paperwork looks legal. Complaint filed by Mrs. Catherine Bennett. 2 witnesses stating you assaulted her men when they came to collect her grandson under lawful temporary guardianship. They kidnapped Ben." Nathan's voice was flat, cold. "Took him out of my arms while he was screaming for me. She has papers saying she has temporary custody while the courts investigate the living situation, says the boy was in danger, says she was protecting him. The papers are false. You know they are false. I know what they look like, Nathan, and they look real enough that I got to hold you until the judge can sort it out." Morrison sighed, ran his hand through his graying hair. "Look, the hearing is set for tomorrow morning. Judge Brennan is fair. He will see through this. You will be out by noon. And in the meantime, Emma is alone with 2 children and 24 hours before Catherine comes back with more men, more papers, more lies." Morrison had no answer for that. Nathan stood, walked to the bars, his hands curled around cold iron. "You know me, James, known me since we were boys. You know I would never hurt those children. You know what really happened." "I know you beat a man to death 5 years ago," Morrison said quietly. "Not accusatory, just fact. I know Carter deserved it for what he did to Ruth's niece. I know the judge cleared you, but I also know you are capable of violence when pushed. I was protecting a child. And Catherine says she is protecting her grandchildren." Nathan's jaw clenched. "Let me out, James. Let me go to Emma. Let me protect my family." "Your family?" Morrison's eyebrows rose. "You known them 3 weeks, Nathan. 3 weeks or 3 years. What does it matter? They are mine to protect, mine to keep safe, and I am locked in here while that woman circles them like a wolf." "Then trust your woman to protect herself," Morrison said. "From what I seen, Emma Hayes is nobody's victim." Emma Hayes. The name sounded strange, right but strange, like something that had always been true but was only now being spoken aloud. "I'm getting married in 2 hours," Nathan said. "Judge or no judge, jail or no jail, I am marrying that woman tonight." Morrison studied him for a long moment, then something shifted in his expression. "You really love her?" It was not a question, but Nathan answered anyway. "More than I thought I could love anything again." The sheriff nodded slowly. Then he pulled out his keys. Nathan's heart leaped. But Morrison did not unlock the cell. Instead, he unlocked the door to the office. "Preacher Webb, get in here." An old man in black stepped through the door. Nathan had not even known he was there, waiting, prepared. "You arranged this," Nathan said. "Arranged is a strong word," Morrison replied. "Let us say I anticipated. Catherine Bennett filed her complaint at 4 this afternoon. She timed it perfectly, right before you were supposed to marry Emma, right before her case got complicated by legal matrimony." He looked at Nathan. "But just because you are in a cell does not mean you cannot take vows." Hope flared in Nathan's chest. "You will let Emma come here. Already sent for her." 10 minutes later, Emma burst through the door. Grace and Rose behind her. All 3 of them breathed hard, faces flushed from running. Emma's hair had come loose from its pins. Her dress was the same one Martha had altered. Simple but beautiful. The dress of a bride even in crisis. She stopped when she saw Nathan behind bars. Her hand went to her mouth. "I am all right," Nathan said quickly. "I am here and I am all right and we are getting married, right now, right here." Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she did not let them fall. Instead, she walked to the cell, put her hands over Nathan's hands on the bars. "I thought she had stopped it. I thought she had won." "Nobody is winning anything today except us," Nathan said fiercely. "Marry me, Emma Bennett. Marry me through these bars, and make it legal, and make it real, and make it so that woman cannot touch our children." Our children, Emma repeated softly. You said our children. They have been our children since the moment you knocked on my door. I was just too scared to admit it. Grace stepped forward, voice steady despite her fear. Mama, we do not have much time. Catherine said she would be back in 24 hours. That was 2 hours ago. Emma nodded, straightened her spine, lifted her chin. Then let us not waste another minute. Preacher Webb opened his worn Bible. His voice was gentle, familiar, the voice of a man who had married 3 generations of Montana families and buried just as many. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here in the sight of God and these witnesses to join this man and this woman in holy matrimony. He paused, looked at the cell bars between bride and groom. Unusual circumstances, but the vows remain the same. He turned to Nathan. Nathan Hayes, do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish until death do you part? Nathan's hands tightened on Emma's. His eyes never left hers. I do. With everything I am, I do. Emma Bennett, do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish until death do you part? Emma's voice did not waver, strong and clear and certain. I do. By the power vested in me by God and the territory of Montana, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Webb closed his Bible, looked at the bars. You may kiss your bride, as best you can manage. Nathan leaned forward. Emma rose on her toes. Their lips met through the iron bars. It was awkward and difficult, and the metal was cold against their faces. But it was real. It was binding. It was done. When they pulled apart, Emma was crying, not from sadness, from relief, from joy, from the fierce knowledge that no matter what happened tomorrow, they had this. They were bound by law and God and the deepest vow 2 people could make. Catherine can come with all the lawyers in Montana, Emma said, but she cannot break what we just made. Grace stepped forward, pulled the sharp rock from her pocket, the rock she had carried since Laramie, the rock that had drawn blood to protect her mother. She held it out to Nathan through the bars. I kept this to protect us, she said, but now I want you to have it, because you are really my pa, and I am really your daughter, and nothing can change that. Nathan took the rock. His hand shook. Nothing will change that, Grace. I swear it. Rose pushed forward, squeezed between her mother and sister. Can I hug Pa, even through the bars? Come here, little bird, Nathan said. Rose pressed herself against the bars. Nathan wrapped his arms around her as best he could, felt her small body shaking, felt her tears soaking through his shirt. I am scared, Pa, she whispered. I know. I am scared too. But you will keep us safe. Nathan looked at Emma over Rose's head, saw the fear there, the determination, the steel that had carried her through 4 months on the road and a lifetime before that. Your mama will keep you safe, he said, until I can get out of here, and then we will keep you safe together. Sheriff Morrison cleared his throat. Visiting time is over. Judge Brennan wants everyone in court at 8 tomorrow morning. That includes you, Nathan, and you, Mrs. Hayes. Emma. Mrs. Hayes. Emma Hayes. The name felt like armor, like protection, like proof that they were a family in the eyes of the law. We will be there, Emma said. Then to Nathan, quieter, I will get you out of there, and I will get Ben back. I promise you. I know you will. You are the strongest person I have ever known. Emma kissed him once more through the bars, then she gathered her daughters and walked out into the Montana night. Nathan watched them go, watched his wife, his daughters, his family, walking away while he sat helpless behind iron bars. But Emma Bennett Hayes was not helpless, and she was not defeated, and Catherine Bennett was about to learn what happened when you threatened a mother's children. Emma did not sleep that night, could not sleep. Instead, she sat at Nathan's kitchen table with papers spread before her. The marriage certificate, the arrest warrant, the temporary custody papers Catherine had filed, every document that would matter in court tomorrow. Grace sat across from her, also awake, also working, writing down everything she remembered, every incident with Thomas, every bruise, every broken bone, every night hiding in the root cellar, the testimony she would give whether the judge wanted to hear it or not. Rose slept on the couch, finally exhausted, her small body curled under a quilt Emma had found in the chest, peaceful despite everything because children could sleep through anything when they felt safe. But Ben was gone, still with Catherine in that hotel in Elborn, still scared, still crying for Pa, still waiting for his family to rescue him. Emma's hands clenched on the papers. "Mama," Grace said softly, "what if we lose?" "We will not lose. But what if we do? What if the judge believes her? What if he takes us away?" Emma looked up, met her daughter's eyes, saw the fear there, the same fear Emma felt gnawing at her insides like a living thing. "Then we run," Emma said simply. "We take Ben, and we run, and we do not stop until we are somewhere she cannot find us. But Pa, we cannot leave Pa. We will not have to, because we are not going to lose." Emma reached across the table, took Grace's hand. "Listen to me. That woman took your brother, took him out of our arms, made him scream and cry and beg, and she thinks that makes her powerful, thinks that makes her right." Emma's grip tightened. "But she does not know what we have survived. She does not know about the 4 months on the road, the 4 ranches that closed their doors, the night your brother stopped breathing and I crawled through snow to save him. She does not know that we are survivors, fighters, that we do not give up even when everything says we should." Grace's eyes filled with tears. "I am tired of fighting, Mama. I am so tired." "I know, baby. I know." Emma moved around the table, pulled Grace into her arms, let her 12-year-old daughter cry against her shoulder, let her be a child again for just these few moments. "But tomorrow we fight one more time, and then it is over, and then we get to rest. Promise." Emma thought about promises, about how Thomas had made promises and broken every one, about how she had learned not to trust words, only actions, only proof. But she also thought about Nathan, about the way he had kept every promise since the night he opened his door, about how he had taught her that some people's words were worth something. "I promise," Emma said. "Tomorrow we fight, and tomorrow we win, and tomorrow we bring Ben home." Grace cried herself to sleep eventually. Emma carried her to bed, tucked her in beside Rose, and returned to the table, to the papers, to the plan. Martha arrived at dawn with food and coffee and reinforcements. The Hendersons came. The Dawsons came. Even some families Emma had never met. All of them ready to testify. All of them ready to stand witness that Nathan Hayes was a good man and Emma was a good mother, and those children belonged with their family. But not everyone came. The Millers stayed away. Some townspeople stayed away. Fear of Catherine's money, fear of her lawyers, fear of being on the wrong side of power. Emma understood. She had been afraid too. For most of her life she had been afraid, but somewhere between leaving Ohio and crawling through that blizzard, fear had stopped being enough to stop her. "Thank you," she said to Martha, "to all of them, for standing with us." "Honey, you stood alone for too long already," Martha replied. "Today you do not stand alone." At 7:30 they walked to the courthouse. Emma in her wedding dress, Grace and Rose on either side, the neighbors following like an army of witnesses, like proof that this family mattered, that they belonged, that they were worth fighting for. The courthouse was already full when they arrived. One side of the room held Catherine and her lawyer Frederick Dalton and several well-dressed people Emma did not recognize. Money and power made visible. The other side held Emma's people, Nathan's people, working families in their Sunday best, calloused hands and sun-weathered faces, and the kind of loyalty that was not bought but earned. Sheriff Morrison brought Nathan in at 8:05, still in handcuffs, still technically under arrest. But when he saw Emma standing there in her wedding dress, when he saw their daughters waiting, something in his face transformed. The emptiness was gone. The defeat was gone. In their place was determination. They were going to win this. They had to win this, because the alternative was unthinkable. Judge Walter Brennan entered at precisely 8 o'clock. He was in his 60s, silver-haired, stern-faced, the kind of judge who had seen everything and believed very little. But his eyes were sharp, missing nothing. And when he looked at Emma, when he looked at Nathan still in chains, something flickered in his expression. "This is highly irregular," he said. His voice carried through the silent courtroom. "But given the serious nature of the allegations, we will proceed. Mr. Dalton, you may present Mrs. Bennett's case." Frederick Dalton stood, smoothed his expensive suit, smiled the smile of a man who thought he had already won. "Your Honor, this case is quite simple. My client, Mrs. Catherine Bennett, is the legal grandmother of 3 minor children currently in the care of Mrs. Emma Bennett. Until 3 weeks ago, these children lived in Ohio with their father, Mrs. Bennett's son. Upon his unfortunate death, Mrs. Emma Bennett removed the children from their home state and brought them to Montana, where she began living in an unmarried state with Mr. Nathan Hayes, a known violent criminal. Emma's jaw clenched, but she did not speak. Not yet. Let him talk. Let him dig his own grave. Mrs. Bennett is concerned for the welfare of her grandchildren, concerned that they are being exposed to immorality and danger. She has filed for emergency custody to protect them from further harm. Dalton turned to the judge. "We have 3 primary concerns. First, the improper living arrangement. Second, Mr. Hayes' history of violence. Third, Mrs. Emma Bennett's fitness as a mother, given that she abandoned her home and exposed her children to vagrancy, cold and near death." He sat down, satisfied, certain. Judge Brennan looked at Emma. "Mrs. Hayes, I understand you are representing yourself." "Yes, Your Honor." Emma stood, her voice steady despite the fear churning in her stomach. "We could not afford a lawyer, but I do not need one to speak the truth." "Very well. You may respond to Mr. Dalton's allegations." Emma took a breath. This was it. Everything depended on the next few minutes, on her ability to make this judge see the truth, to make him understand. "Your Honor, Mr. Dalton is right about some things and wrong about others. Let me address each point." She held up one finger. "The improper living arrangement. My husband and I married yesterday, right here in Sheriff Morrison's office. We have the marriage certificate. We are legally wed. There is nothing improper about our situation." Dalton stood. "A marriage that occurred only after my client filed her complaint, a marriage designed to circumvent the law." "A marriage that occurred because 2 people fell in love," Emma shot back. "Because a man opened his door to a desperate woman and her dying children. Because over 3 weeks we became a family. The timing was accelerated by your client's threats, yes. But the intention was always there." Judge Brennan held up his hand. "Noted. Continue, Mrs. Hayes." Emma held up a second finger. "Mr. Hayes' history of violence. Your Honor, 5 years ago my husband stopped a man named Carter from raping a 16-year-old girl. He used force, excessive force. He killed that man, but he did it to save a child. The judge at the time cleared him of wrongdoing. That is not a history of violence. That is a history of protecting the vulnerable." She looked at Catherine across the room, stared at her directly. "My husband has never raised his hand to me or to my children, has never threatened us, has never shown anything but patience and kindness and love. He is the gentlest man I have ever known, and anyone who says different is lying." Martha stood in the gallery. "I will testify to that, Your Honor. Nathan Hayes is a good man." "Sit down, Mrs. Davis," the judge said, but his eyes had softened slightly. Emma held up a third finger. Her hand was shaking now, but she steadied it through force of will. "And finally, my fitness as a mother. Mr. Dalton says I abandoned my home. He is wrong. I fled for my life." She pulled up her sleeve. The scar there was old but visible, white and twisted, the shape of a poker from a wood stove. My husband Thomas Bennett broke my arm with this when Grace was 8 years old. He threw Ben against a wall when he was 3. He beat me unconscious more times than I can count. For 8 years I endured it. For 8 years I told myself it would get better. For 8 years I was wrong. Emma's voice grew stronger. When Thomas died, his family blamed me, called me a killer, a bad wife, a failure. They took everything, the house, the money, everything, left me in the street with 3 children and nothing else. She looked at the judge. So yes, I walked. I walked for 4 months trying to find somewhere that would take us. I worked any job I could find, scrubbed floors, washed dishes, did whatever it took to keep my children fed. And when we could not find shelter, when winter came hard and my son stopped breathing in my arms, I crawled through a blizzard to the one man who would open his door. Emma's voice cracked. That is not abandonment, Your Honor. That is survival. That is a mother doing whatever it takes to protect her children. And if that makes me unfit, then I do not understand what fitness means. The courtroom was silent. Even Dalton had no immediate response. Judge Brennan leaned forward. Mrs. Bennett, you may present your witnesses. Catherine stood. For the first time, Emma got a good look at her former mother-in-law. She was tall, thin, dressed in black silk that must have cost more than Emma had made in a year. Her face was hard, carved from ice and anger and years of bitterness. Your Honor, I only want what is best for my grandchildren. Tell the court what you believe is best. A stable home, proper education, the life they deserve, not some frontier hovel with a murderer. Emma stood. How dare you? Mrs. Hayes, Judge Brennan warned, control yourself. But Emma could not control herself. Not anymore. You did not care about those children when they were being beaten. You did not care when I sent you 5 letters begging for help. You did not care until it became convenient for you. I never received any letters, Catherine said coldly. Liar. Grace's voice rang out from where she sat, clear and strong and furious. I wrote them myself. 5 letters, telling you what Daddy was doing, begging you to come get us. You sent them back unopened. Addressee refused. I have the envelopes to prove it. Catherine's face went white. Emma reached into her bag, pulled out 5 envelopes, all addressed to Catherine Bennett in Grace's careful child's handwriting, all stamped, Return to sender. Addressee refused. Your Honor, I submit these as evidence that Mrs. Bennett knew about the abuse and chose to do nothing. Dalton stood. This is hearsay. These letters prove nothing. They prove she knew, Emma said. They prove she had 5 chances to save her grandchildren and refused every one. And now she has the audacity to stand here and claim she wants what is best for them. Judge Brennan took the letters, examined them carefully. His expression darkened. Mrs. Bennett, did you receive these letters? Catherine's mouth opened, closed, opened again. I could not face it. Could not face what? The truth. Catherine's voice was barely a whisper. The truth about my son. The courtroom held its breath. My son was a drunk and a violent man, and I knew it, Catherine said. Each word seemed to cost her. I knew it because I lived it. My husband was the same. Thomas learned it from him, learned to hit, learned to break things, learned to destroy the people who loved him. She looked at Emma. Those letters came and I could not open them, because if I opened them I would have to admit I raised a monster, that I failed him, that I could have stopped it and did not. Your Honor. Dalton looked panicked. My client is not in the proper frame of mind to testify. I request a recess. Denied. Let her speak. Catherine continued, her voice stronger now, as if confession had unlocked something. When Emma left, I blamed her. Easier than blaming myself, easier than facing what I had done, what I had allowed. I convinced myself she was the problem, that she had driven Thomas to drink, to violence, that if I could just get the children away from her they would be safe. She laughed, a bitter sound. But they were never in danger from her. They were in danger from him, from my son, from the man I raised to be exactly like his father. "Why are you telling us this?" Judge Brennan asked. Catherine looked at Grace, at Rose, at Emma standing strong in her wedding dress. "Because I see them now, really see them, and they are not scared, not anymore. Grace is fierce, Rose is joyful. They stand next to their mother without flinching, without fear. That is not what abused children look like." She swallowed hard. "That is what healed children look like. That is what happens when someone actually protects them." "So you are withdrawing your petition?" the judge asked. "Not yet," Catherine said. "First I need to hear from them, from the children. I need to know they are truly safe, that I am not making another mistake." Judge Brennan looked at Grace. "Young lady, would you like to make a statement?" Grace stood, walked to the front of the courtroom. She was 12 years old, small for her age, thin from months of hard living, but when she spoke her voice filled the room. "Your Honor, my name is Grace Bennett. I am 12 years old. I have seen things no child should see. I watched my father beat my mother unconscious. I hid my brother and sister in a root cellar when he was too drunk to remember we existed. I stabbed a man in Laramie when he tried to drag Mama into an alley." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Grace walked to where Nathan sat in chains. "I carried a rock every day since Laramie, my protection, my weapon. I trusted no one, especially not men." She touched Nathan's hand gently. "Last night I gave that rock to Pa, through the jail bars, because I knew he would keep us safe, because in 3 weeks he showed me what a real father looks like." She turned back to the judge. "Pa never yelled, never hit, never made us scared. He taught Ben to ride horses. He let Rose name chickens. He listened when I talked. He opened his home when 4 other ranches closed their doors. He saved my brother's life." Her voice grew fierce. "If you take us from him, you are not protecting us. You are punishing us. We have been punished enough." The courtroom was silent. Catherine was crying. Emma was crying. Even Judge Brennan's eyes looked suspiciously wet. "Is there anyone else who wishes to speak?" the judge asked. The door at the back of the courtroom opened. Sheriff Morrison stood there, and beside him holding his hand was Ben. Emma's heart stopped. Ben, her baby, her boy. He was here. Catherine stood. "I brought him. I thought he should be part of this." Ben walked down the aisle, 5 years old, small and scared but walking on his own. He went straight to Nathan, climbed onto his lap despite the chains, wrapped his small arms around Nathan's neck. "Pa," he whispered, "I want to go home." "Soon, son." Nathan's voice was thick. "Soon." Judge Brennan leaned forward. "Ben, is it? Do you have something you want to say?" Ben nodded against Nathan's shoulder. Then he lifted his head, looked at the judge with serious brown eyes. "Mrs. Catherine is my grandma. I know that. But I do not remember her. I do not remember Ohio." He looked at Catherine. "I only remember being scared. Scared of Daddy." Then he looked at Nathan. "But I am not scared of Pa. Pa saved my life. Pa holds me when I have nightmares. Pa teaches me about horses. Pa is my real father now." He turned to Catherine. "You can visit, but Pa is my real Pa." And then, in a moment that would live forever in Emma's memory, Ben slid off Nathan's lap and walked to Catherine, held out his small hand. "But we can be friends," he said, "if you want." Catherine broke, completely. She knelt down and pulled Ben into her arms and sobbed. Not the quiet crying of before, but deep wrenching sobs. Years of guilt and grief and loss pouring out of her. "I am so sorry," she said, over and over. "I am so sorry." Ben patted her back, comforting a grown woman with a child's simple kindness. "It is okay. Pa says everyone makes mistakes." Judge Brennan cleared his throat. "Mrs. Bennett, are you withdrawing your petition?" Catherine looked up, tears streaming down her face. "Yes. Yes, Your Honor, I withdraw completely." "And the criminal complaint against Mr. Hayes?" "Also withdrawn. It was false. They did not assault anyone. I lied to separate them. I am sorry." The judge nodded to Sheriff Morrison. "Release Mr. Hayes." The chains came off. Nathan stood, rubbed his wrists where the metal had bitten. Then he opened his arms, and his family came to him. Emma, Grace, Rose, Ben, all of them together, all of them whole. Judge Brennan's gavel came down. In light of Mrs. Bennett's testimony and the evidence presented, I find no grounds for removing these children from their parents' care. They will remain with Mr. and Mrs. Nathan Hayes. This case is dismissed. The courtroom erupted. Martha was crying. The Hendersons were crying. Even some of the people who had come to support Catherine were wiping their eyes. Nathan held his family, his wife, his children, the family he had never expected to have, the family that had knocked on his door and changed everything. Catherine approached slowly, hesitantly. Emma, I do not expect forgiveness. I do not deserve it. But I want you to know I am sorry. For everything. For Thomas. For the letters. For this. Emma studied her. This woman who had caused so much pain. This woman who was also a victim of the same cycle of violence. I do not forgive you, Emma said honestly. Not yet. But maybe someday. That is more than I have any right to ask. Grace stepped forward. You can write to us, not visit yet, but write. I would like that very much. Rose pushed between them. And if you are nice in your letters, maybe you can visit at Christmas, but you have to bring presents. Despite everything, Catherine laughed. I will bring presents. They walked out of the courthouse into bright winter sunshine, free, whole, together. Emma held Nathan's hand on one side and Ben's on the other. Grace and Rose walked ahead already bickering about what to have for dinner. We did it, Emma said. You did it, Nathan corrected. You stood up there and fought for our family. You were magnificent. We both did it, all of us together. Nathan stopped, turned to face her, right there in the middle of the street, right there where everyone could see. He cupped her face in his hands. I love you, Emma Hayes. I love you and our children and this life we are building. I love you more than I knew it was possible to love anything. Emma smiled. I love you too. He kissed her, right there in the street. And the whole town of Elborn saw Nathan Hayes kiss his wife and knew that the sad, empty man who had lived in that ranch for 6 years was gone forever. In his place was a husband, a father, a man who had learned to live again. 6 months later, spring came to Montana with wildflowers and warm winds and the promise of new beginnings. Emma's garden flourished, the same garden Rebecca had dreamed of, the same plot of earth that had lain empty for 6 years. Now it grew tomatoes and beans and squash. Grace helped with the weeding. Rose named every plant. Ben ate strawberries straight off the vine and came inside with juice running down his chin. The children had transformed. Grace was still fierce, but she smiled now, laughed, let herself be 12 instead of 40. She talked about law school, about going east someday to study. Nathan promised to send her, promised to give her every chance Thomas never did. Rose's chicken empire had expanded to 20 hens. She wanted to be a veterinarian, told everyone who would listen about her plans, made friends with Tommy Miller, who no longer put frogs in girls' desks because Rose had punched him for it, and then they became best friends. Ben had no more nightmares, rode better than most adults, called Nathan Pa without hesitation. The silent, scared boy who had stopped breathing in the snow was gone. In his place was a child who knew he was safe, who knew he was loved, who knew his pa would protect him no matter what. And Catherine wrote, every week, long letters full of apologies and stories and the slow, painful work of healing. She was in a program now for women who had lived with violence, learning to forgive herself, learning that breaking the cycle started with acknowledgement. Grace wrote back, carefully, measuring each word, testing to see if this new grandmother could be trusted. The others did not write yet, but they let Grace read Catherine's letters aloud at dinner. Let her become real in small increments. She wants to visit at Christmas, Grace said one evening. Says she understands if we say no. What do you want? Nathan asked. Grace thought about it. I want to see if she means what she says, if she is really different, if she can be a grandma instead of Catherine. Then we tell her yes, Emma said, but she stays in town. Not here. We do this slow." "Slow is good," Grace agreed. They sat on the porch that evening, the same porch where Emma had pounded on the door a lifetime ago, the same place where everything had changed. Nathan had his arm around Emma. Ben sat in his lap. Rose and Grace were building a fort out of blankets inside. Their laughter drifted through the open windows. "1 year ago I thought my life was over," Emma said. "Thought I would never be happy again." "1 year ago I thought the same," Nathan replied. "Thought I was finished, done, just waiting to die." "What changed?" "You knocked. I opened. Everything else followed." Emma looked at their house, at the warm light glowing from every window, at the garden growing strong, at the children's laundry hanging on the line, all the evidence of a life being lived instead of endured. "Thank you," she said, "for opening your door. Thank you for knocking." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun set over the Montana plains, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink and purple, the kind of sunset that promised tomorrow would be beautiful. Inside, Rose shrieked with laughter. Grace told her to be quiet. Ben came running out. "Pa, Mama, come see the fort we made." Nathan set him down. "Go on, tell them we are coming." Ben ran back inside. Nathan stood, helped Emma to her feet. They walked to the door together, paused on the threshold, the same threshold where everything had changed. "Ready?" Nathan asked. Emma smiled. "Always." They walked inside, into warmth and light and noise, into the beautiful chaos of family, into the life they had built from broken pieces. The door closed behind them, and in the window 2 photographs sat side by side, Rebecca Hayes with her gentle smile, and Emma Hayes in her wedding dress, not replacing, but adding, building on what had come before. 2 women who never met, but who together had saved one man's life and given a family a home. The house that had been empty for 6 years was full again, full of laughter, full of love, full of the sound of living. And outside, the Montana night settled over the ranch, cold and clear and full of stars, the kind of night that made you believe in second chances, in new beginnings, in the possibility that no matter how broken you were, love could make you whole again. 1 year ago, a desperate woman had knocked on a stranger's door with dying children in her arms. 1 year ago, a broken man had opened that door and let life back in. Everything after that was just a matter of choosing each other, every day, every moment, through every challenge and every joy. Choosing family, choosing love, choosing to live instead of merely survive. And that choice, made over and over again, had built something that would last, something that would matter, something that would echo through generations. A home, a family, a life worth living. Inside the house, Ben called for his pa. Rose demanded a story. Grace reminded everyone about homework. Emma laughed and told them all to settle down. And Nathan Hayes, who had been dead inside for 6 years, who had thought he would never feel anything again, who had opened one door on one frozen night, stood in the middle of his chaotic, beautiful family and felt more alive than he had in his entire life. This was what Rebecca had wanted for him. This was what Emma had fought for. This was what the children deserved. Not perfection, not ease, but belonging, safety, love that was earned through action and proven through time. The door had opened. The family had been built. The story had been written, and now they would live it, together, for all the years to come. The end was really just the beginning of everything that mattered.